Hello YouTube, just woke up, ain't done my hair this morning. But I don't know when y'all watch this or when I'll post it, but it is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. So today we're gonna work on the Trans Am a little bit more. We're gonna do the valve seals with the head on the car. So it's actually unseasonably warm today. It's supposed to get up to like 67, but still like 40 out. It's warm out there with the sun shining, but in here it's kind of cold. I just got a light jacket on, but it's going to warm up. It's going to feel good today. We're all going to eat about 5 o'clock, so I don't know. It's like 9:30 now. Probably I'm going to cook the turkey. One of them oven bags, I guess they cook an hour faster when you put them in the oven bag, so I don't need to throw the oven in until the turkey in the oven until about 2. We're all going to eat about 5, and the lady is doing all the mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, corn, green beans, whatever. But I'm going to work on this a little bit until I have to put the turkey in the oven. So now what I like to do, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can put one, if you have an air compressor, you can put one of them air compressor fittings in there and put it on there and blow air in there. But to keep the valve from falling down the motor, because when you take these locks and this retainer off, you ain't got something to catch that valve, it's going to drop down the motor, and then you're going to have to be taking your head back off to get it out. But if you have the piston at top dead center, you don't really have to worry about it dropping all the way down in the motor anyway. It'll catch itself. But that compressed air, I don't really like that compressed air, because if you put a lot of compressed air in there, it'll actually push the piston down and rotate the motor. And if you're trying to take these locks off and that valve comes off its seat and it loses that air, boom, down it goes. What I do is I find out when the piston is at bottom dead center, and I put a bunch of rope in there. So I just use this rope right here I got from the dollar store. About that big around. I don't know what size it is, but anyway. What you got to do is you got to figure out when the piston's down, and the best way to do that is off your lifters, push rods, or rocker arms. Now, on a small block Chevy, that one's the exhaust, that one's intake, that one's the intake. This one's the exhaust, intake, exhaust. So now, when the exhaust lifter starts to come up, that means the piston's on the bottom and it's making its way up to blow the exhaust out. Now, once the exhaust gets to the top, piston gets to the top on that stroke, the exhaust closes, the intake opens, the piston goes down, it sucks the air-fuel ratio in. So the way you can tell is exhaust starts to open. And this is just like setting your valves if you do the exhaust open, intake close method. But the exhaust starts to, lifter comes up, pushes the rocker arm pushes the spring goes down. Once the exhaust starts to do that, that means the piston's at the bottom. And once the intake, once the intake valve starts to all the way close, then that means the piston's on the bottom. Now, if you're doing it like me and you got the intake and the push rods and everything else like that off, you can do it on either one of those. But now if you got the intake on, you got the push rods on, you got the rocker arms on, you're going to want to put the string in when the intake closes. Because if you do it when the exhaust is about to open, you put that string in there and push it up, then it's going to hit your valve. But I guess you could do it where the exhaust starts to open, then take the rocker arms off, put the string in there, and then push it up. But yeah. Anyway, exhaust starts to open, put your string in there. If you have your rockers on there, take them off. And then turn the motor over until the piston pushes on that string. and pushes the string into the valves, into the chamber of the head, or the intake valve closes. That means it's on the bottom. The piston's going to start to come up for the power stroke. Then you can put your string in there. And there, it doesn't matter if you take your rocker arms and stuff off or not. It's going to come up to closed valves because it's going to be on the power stroke. But yeah, and then put your string in, turn it over, and then you can take your rocker arms and stuff off. But just keep that in mind. I've lost power for some reason. Let me go figure out why I lost power. All right, got my power back on. She must be doing some serious cooking in there. Throw the breaker. All right. I'm going to turn this over until I see what these valves are doing. Or what these lifters are doing. I'm going to stick some string in that spark plug hole. I'm going to get the piston on the bottom. Stick the string in the spark plug hole and then turn the motor over until it pushes that string up against the valves. Oh yeah, also, if you're doing this with the motor together, take your spark plugs out and make it way easier to turn the motor over. You're going to need to take your spark plugs out to put the rope in there anyway. You might as well go through and take them all out. And it'll make it easier. So on this one, exhaust right there. That lifter started to come up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it did start to come up. So that means that the piston hit the bottom and it's starting to come up to blow the exhaust fumes out. So I can go ahead and stick the string in there. Again, just this size string here. I stick about 5 feet of it up in the hole. Nope, I got about 5 feet stuck up in there. How do you know, Marshall? Because I got a knot tied in it. Now, if you're only working with like 5 feet of rope, be really careful not to stick it all in the hole and it fall down in there, because then you're going to be trying to dig it out or take the head back off. If you're dealing with only 5 feet of rope and you're wanting to use the whole 5 feet of rope, tie a big knot, big enough that it won't fit through that spark plug hole, so you don't drop that down in there. Because sometimes when you turn the motor over, it does pull some of it in there somehow. I don't know. All right, now we can turn the motor over until we can't turn it over no more. Now we're not going to go He-Man on this. We're just going to turn it over until it hits. It'll push the piston up. It'll push that rope up in the chamber. And then it'll push so far the piston can't go no more. Now I turned it over so it won't go no more. And like I said, don't go He-Man on that, just till it hits. Fine. So now, should be tight on that rope. So now, when we take this off, the piston's going to hit that rope, which is sitting on top of the piston. So now we can go ahead and put our tool on here, start to take these off. Not sure if y'all watched the other video, but this is the little Proform tool. It's got a 7/16 side and a 3/8 side. Depending on what side you got to use, you got to take that C-clip off and then pull it out the hole, flip it around, but we're on the 7/16 side and that's what we've got here. So, and this will adjust up and down as needed. I go ahead and tighten that all the way up. I'll do it once I get it on here, but you just screw it onto the stud just like so. See, and that's why I tighten this up, because it'll spin, 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 then fall off. All right, there we go. Then screw that all the way down, like so. Till it don't screw no more. Yeah, that's good enough. Then bring this around, and line that up. Make sure it's straddling the locks and the valve stem. And we can put our tool on here, push down on it. Now, as I mentioned in my other video, if those locks don't break loose from the retainer, I'm gonna have to readjust this because I'm bottomed out over here. Actually, I could probably just slide it to the side here. Now, if those locks don't bust off there like it just did, what you can do is take a socket big enough to fit around all that and a hammer, and the socket should be laying on the retainer part, and beat on the socket and it'll break this stuff loose. But I've been in here recently, so these shouldn't have to need to do that. They should just break right loose. But another good thing to have is a magnet to dig these things out of here with. And sometimes they like to stick and you need to spin them around, or this, that, or the other. Sometimes you got to put a screwdriver on them and push on them to break them loose sometimes. That one's not wanting to come off, so I'm going to take a screwdriver, push on the ledge of it, and pop it loose. Now, if you have the intake on your motor, you want to be careful of this, because if this flies off there and goes down in that hole, it's going to go down in the intake valley. And then you're going to have to take the intake off. If your intake isn't already off, it's a good idea to stick a rag down in there. But they can fly down in these big holes too. So usually you can fish a magnet down in there and get them out if that happens. But yeah, you might want to stick rags down in here, whatever, whatnot, so it doesn't fly down in there. It could actually fly down in there and go down inside the block in certain places, and it'll wind up in your oil pan. But anyway, then you just take that off there like that right there, and then usually tighten that up so it isn't flopping around on me. Then we unscrew this part, like so. Then we can take our spring and our retainer off. See, this was the one that was up inside the... Look, it's staying down in there now. Hold on. Because I stuck through the spring like this and kind of wedged it back down there. Maybe I just didn't get it on tight enough, but we're going to replace them anyway. So since we'll replace them, I'm just going to pry them like that and pop them off. Then we'll get us a new one. And I'm going to stick some Vaseline down in that hole, or oil. I don't have any oil laying around handy, so I'm going to stick Vaseline down in there. There, I stuck some Vaseline down in there. Now they make a sleeve that goes over that so this lip don't get caught on the lip that your locks go on, but I don't have one, so we're just going to carefully push that down. There we go. Now I'm going to take a socket just big enough to fit over that valve stem, and I'm going to tap that down. And there we go. This is the 7/16. And I'm just going to hold it with my hand, but I'm going to tap on it like that. A little bit harder than that, and make sure it seats all the way down, but I'm going to hold on to the socket, make sure it's nice and straight and do it. I can't do that holding the camera. Alright, it's all the way down on there. Oh, that thing ain't coming off. And then, now, we can take our spring and our retainer, set those back on there, like so. And then, put our tool back on, like so. All right. Now, when you push this down, try to pull the spring out as you push down, so that'll give you more room to work with. If not, it pushes the spring back that way. You don't have enough room to get in there, get everything on there, but I can't hold the camera and do this at the same time, so. Alright, that was the best I could get it. So now, These logs go in here just like this, angled side down. That little groove part goes in a groove that's in the valve stem. See it right there? Also, if your valve isn't all the way up, you can do that and get it all the way up. It'll help you get these in here. But carefully as not to drop them. Some people put Vaseline or grease on these, and so it helps hold them in there. I'll be honest with you, I've never had much luck with the grease holding them in there. Alright, so now what I found to do is if you rock this over to the side, my handle falls off, and put this one on the side, I can get it to work. There we go. Now I'll drop my handle. Oh, I should have went down farther with the. Now if we push this over, and I just push the handle over and rock the spring over, and we should be able to get this one in here, hopefully. And sometimes it takes two hands, but that one's not in far enough. That one's in far enough. When you bring the retainer up, it'll squeeze it into the hole, into the groove, but this one ain't. So let me get in here with two hands. All right, so I had to readjust this to push the spring down further. And then I had to hold those on there as I let the pressure off the spring. But once you get those down inside there and the groove on the lock is lower than the groove on the valve stem, when you lift up on the handle, this retainer will squeeze them into place. But yeah, that's what it looks like when it's back on. Now we can take our tool back off and move to the next one. And I'm just going to go all through all of them like that. But that's going to do it for this video. Y'all like and subscribe and have a happy Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, when you get done, back the pressure off of this, off the crank a little, and pull your string out. That one's finished. Then go on to the next one, do the same thing. Forgot to mention that part.